Hi, everybody. As you probably know, my name is Showciety1245, and I am here with Debbie and Jason.
Hello.
Awesome. And Jason is the CEO of RAD, which is Rise Above the Disorder. That's the wonderful charity that we have been working towards raising money for this whole week so far. And we were very excited to be able to get a chance to sit down with him and talk to him um, about RAD, what it means to him, what it means to all of us. And we've come up with some questions that we wanted to talk about with Jason and share it with all of you. So, Debbie, why don't you go ahead with our first question?
All right. So, our first question, mental health is a topic that is still very much stigmatized to this day. Only in the past about 2 to 3 years has mental health really become a hot button awareness issue. So, what led you to tapping into a market that was so desperately needing attention back in 2013?
Hmm. I think what led to us being a really gaming focused organization was my own experiences. Um, when we were originally founded as Anxiety Gaming, pretty much just a World of Warcraft guild trying to help people that join the guild. This was me also really coping with my own issues, not being able to access mental health care, not being able to afford mental health care, and like so many people who struggle with their mental health, prioritizing other people over yourself and focusing on helping them and doing all the things for them that you could realistically do for yourself, but also can't do for yourself. And um, at the time, I had agoraphobia, so I was unable to leave home without having panic attacks, and so the only world that I really existed in was the World of Warcraft. Um, and so I did everything that I could through WoW, and it just kind of stuck. Um, More and more people needed help, so we just kept providing it, and have never really found a reason to venture elsewhere. Everybody that we really relate to and connect with are all here.
Well, thank you
Great.
very much for sharing that story. I think that's like Debbie said, it's one of the big things with the stigma around it is that a lot of people, don't realize how common these issues are. And just by sharing these stories, so many people find out that there's so many others that are like them. So I really appreciate you, talking about what you went through and, how that helped you found this really, really great charity that we are working towards. So you kind of already hinted at it, but our second question is that in 2018, Showciety, for our first Showciety Gives Back charity event, we actually did anxiety gaming and we raised $4,000 for that, which we were really excited for. And now, as you already said, you guys have rebranded into RAD. So how did your decision process go for rebranding and expanding just from anxiety and gaming into the more broad, affordable and accessible mental health care for all?
Yeah, that's a good question, and I appreciate the support in 2018. And um, that came at a really critical time for us and for the work that we were doing. Um, there came a time in anxiety gaming's history where there was always a focus on trying to find people therapists, and there was always a focus on trying to cover the cost of mental health care for people that couldn't afford it otherwise. Um, but it was more, I guess, diluted in, we just kind of did whichever one made sense. The programs weren't really separated yet. It was people would apply, and if they couldn't afford it, okay, well, then let's figure it out and cover the cost. And the need to really set those aside and make it clear that there was an option for those that can't afford mental health care to get help was the path that we started to go down. Um, some of this was also inspired by a particular individual that um, sometime prior we couldn't help. We had effectively run out of money, didn't know how to fundraise or how to gather support, and as we were trying to crowdfund their mental health care, um, they ultimately ended up taking their life. And so it had become really clear to me that we weren't just a World of Warcraft guilds. We weren't just some volunteers trying to do this as something that was both fun and giving back. We had to really be this nonprofit. We had to really step up and focus on what happens when people can't access mental health care. This reality that we were living, we weren't embodying that as well as we could. And because we didn't really think through how to fundraise or how to grow as an organization, and just more focused on as people come, let's figure it out together. Um, we knew we had to step away from that. In that process, changing the name, changing the brand, changing the identity was really symbolic for us as in changing even our own personal dynamic. We had to no longer be these people who were internally struggling and helping others instead of ourselves. We had to help ourselves. We had to organize our efforts, and we had to kind of reemerge much more focused and disciplined in our efforts. And we really liked the name RAD. We we were trying to do a music fundraiser at one point called Rock Against Depression, and the acronym RAD was like, wow, that's so cool. We thought we were really clever, and we were just like, so how do we use RAD? We tried, well, maybe we do like rise against the disorder, and we're like, that's super aggressive, like that's
No,
oh my
it's so
gosh.
funny that you say that, because so many times, so many of our team members accidentally called it Rise Against the Disorder, because I think there's this thing. I mean, personally, in my head, I was thinking Rage Against the Machine and Rise Above the Disorder, and I put the two together. And it's so funny that you just said that right now. Oh my goodness.
We put that together too. Rise Against. Sometimes we get way like out of the ballpark efforts as well, where people will call us like Rage Against the Disaster, or I mean, there's just we are also self-aware to know that it is hard to, I guess, disassociate these really popular bands and like our name having a good chunk of those popular bands' names. So we just stick with RAD.
Mhm.
But I mean, that was really what inspired the change. Most of our staff changed, as well as the brand, the website, the programs, everything really became more focused on what I kind of think internally is where we failed the most, and that was to help this particular individual. But if we could focus on this idea of universal health care, something that would have helped them, supported them, would have changed the reality of the situation, um, maybe that's what we do then.
I will say a lot of people, I personally feel a lot of people don't know the importance of mental health, and a lot of people don't realize that they have mental health issues or need help with their mental health until it's at a point where it is too late. And to me personally, I will say that I completely agree with the idea of mental health care should be something that is affordable and accessible to everybody. And that's why we're honestly so happy to be doing something with this charity, because it's very important to us. And using that as a segue, I will ask, how does someone who needs mental health care go about accessing it through RAD?
Yeah. This for us is just one kind of streamlined process. We have our own version of an intake, um, and so people go to our website, they click receive help, get help, find support. We we have different buttons for each part of the website, which you know, as we figure things out. Um, but once you click that, you're taken to the page where there are options. And there's really only those two options: somebody who is really looking to find a therapist that needs help, um, really tracking down somebody that will make sense for them, that will fit them. And then there's the grant side, somebody who has always wanted to feel well again, who's always wanted to overcome this depression, this anxiety, but has just never been able to afford to, doesn't have insurance, doesn't know where to begin. Um, Both follow a similar path. To us, finding the best possible provider in someone's area is always the most critical piece. Um, so we spend an exhaustive amount of time doing that, and once we have located the right resources for someone, they either get introduced to those resources and take over, and their insurance does what it's supposed to, or we cover the cost and we stick around and just kind of make sure that progress continues to unfold for them. um, but yeah, it's just all begins with that website.
And I think, like Debbie said, that's something that is just so great about it is once you, if you're, how should I word this? Some people in their mental health journey, like Debbie said, they can feel that like hopelessness, like I'm lost, I don't know what to do. And RAD being kind of a source to solve two birds with one stone, helps me find the person that can help me out and helps me if I'm in a situation where I can't afford it. And, that's again, just so many things that we love about RAD and why we chose to um, do our charity event with RAD. And, you know, your goal of making it affordable and accessible is just something that really spoke to us. So
Support
that's
the
awesome
cause.
that, yeah,
Yeah.
that's awesome that the site is able to do that. All right, our next question is what are some things that you wish everybody knew about mental health? What are some key points or takeaways that you hope become more common knowledge?
Yeah, that is a powerful one. I think about this all the time, actually, especially as I look at my own mental health. Um, I think one of the pieces that always comes to mind when I look through my experiences is that how I felt in the past has changed so significantly that I almost struggle to remember how I could be so anxious or so depressed. Um, it's a weird thing to imagine, but at one point, waking up every day into these panic attacks, really struggling to go to sleep every night, um, just always kind of being down because of that reality. That was an everyday thing for me for so many years. Now I I struggle to connect with that experience, struggle to relate to it in myself. And I guess the takeaway there is just how significant working on your mental health can be. That how you feel now is as difficult as it can be, as challenging as it can be, and everybody's situation is certainly unique, but there is that potential for things to change. And so it's a powerful way to almost reconfigure. Um, I almost imagine it as like I was this like mirror or kind of like this picture that had been shattered and somehow put back together. Um, and I mean, it's still me, and at the same time, it's different. Um, I don't know. So I hope people maybe can look at that experience and learn something. Maybe the other side that often comes to mind When we look at mental health, we often look at it in the scheme of disorders, of illness, of issue. Um, and although all of these are part of mental health, the word itself is just a reflection of how we relate, how we think, how we behave, how we engage with others. We can talk about mental health and not necessarily imply that somebody's ill or unwell. Um, and even if somebody is maybe struggling at one point, it is on this almost sliding scale. You know, some days are better than others. Some points of my life, maybe I'm a little bit more here than there. It's kind of ever changing and very flexible. Um, and so, you know, I hope as people are looking at mental health and looking at things to add to their knowledge base of just this idea that mental health itself is not necessarily implying that somebody is not feeling well, um, but also that even if we're not feeling well, it doesn't mean that we're stuck there. That we'll always feel that way.
Great. That's better than I could have ever said it. Um, so our final question for you is regarding the situation of the world currently. So with 2020 and COVID, mental health issues have been becoming very apparent with the amount of isolation that people have been feeling. Do you have any helpful tips for people that might be struggling during this time?
Yeah, absolutely. Um, to me and to many of the people that have come through our program, one of the most fundamental parts of coping with our present reality um, has been to really organize and segment our days, to have set times that we wake up, to have set times that we go to sleep, to have set times where we work or play, even set times where we just interact and socialize. Um, this is almost like that time between like the end of the winter holidays and the beginning of the school year, where there's just like that strange period and everything's chaotic and nobody really sleeps normal and everybody's just eating whatever and like life has just kind of gone off the rails. But then school starts and you're like, oh, I guess I got to get back into that. And then things start to balance out.
Mhm.
We almost have to self-regulate in that way now, uh, and it's not an easy thing to do. But just kind of setting those alarms, those timelines of when I do what I do, has helped me and helped a lot of people in our program just start to get a hold of some of the otherwise chaotic nature of a COVID schedule. Um, Maybe even the other part that I've started to see more and more um, is really taking a look at our habits. Seeing a lot more casual drinking, a lot more alcohol usage. Of course, the sleep is really scattered. A lot more caffeine, energy drinks, whatever whatever can get you moving. Because maybe you've woke up behind streaming schedule or when you want to watch somebody go live. So that can be very triggering. Um, but there's even like the Postmates and using Postmates just as much more than we otherwise would have. Um, right now is not a normal time. It is not something we can expect others to have to live through in the future. Um, but for now, while we're going through this, we almost have to bring ourselves back to the habits that we had before this. Sans going outside, of course, but the eating, the sleeping, and then the use of any kind of substance.
Very well said. Very well said. Well,
Yeah.
go ahead.
Oh no, I was just agreeing. I
Well,
definitely like get that feel of like the end of winter slump, and it's like, oh, it's that, but it's been here since March.
yeah, and you add the
Going
current
away.
state of the world to it, and it multiplies and intensifies. I agree. Yeah.
Mm. I think that's
Um,
like the one benefit I've found with streaming during this whole thing is that that sense of isolation has felt a lot less because you connect with those people in your community, however often you stream. And I've had a lot of people in my community say that just being able to hang out with somebody for a few hours a night has really done a lot for their mental health, far more than they expected. Just watching somebody be bad at video games, like you never think that that would help you out as much as it does, but um, like you said, I think it's kind of pulled them out of that slump of I'm not doing anything with my day. Like having that stream and having something to look forward to, like that is their fun time, like you said.
and I will say for a few people, I had never gotten this much before, but having someone come in and thank you for helping them get out of a rut, or helping them through a bout of anxiety, or a bit of depression from something that had happened. Um, it, it's been happening a lot more since everything started, but it definitely put some, or should I say, open my eyes more to the amount of people that are struggling right now, with the amount of times that I've had a thank you for helping me get through today. Thank you for helping me, so this was definitely a very important SGB year to make sure that we rally around a charity that is focused on mental health and supporting people who are struggling with mental health. And we just want to say thank you one more time for everything your charity has done, and all the people that it's helped. It means a lot to not only this community, but now you've spread your wings and you guys are helping people all over the world, not just the gaming community. And that's so awesome.
Thank
Yeah.
you. I appreciate you saying that. It's been an incredible journey for us, and thankfully, an incredible journey for so many more people. Um, I really appreciate the support. This has been beautiful for us, and is certainly going to impact a lot of people.
We're happy to help.
Yeah, it's definitely our pleasure. We we've already seen like so many people who've done donations that have said, this is something that I personally go through, and to be able to see a charity that works with something that I deal with, it really hits home to a lot of people, a lot of our viewers, a lot of our streamers. So yeah, like Debbie said, just echoing the sentiment, we are so happy to be able to work with RAD for this week and be able to donate the money that we raise to you guys to help you in your goals and your mission.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Awesome.
Before we
Well,
go, we just want to say that if any of you watching this video are struggling with mental health, you can find help at urrad.org.
Rise Above the Disorder is a nonprofit dedicated to battling the two greatest barriers in mental health care: access and affordability. RAD has helped 36,000 people in 133 countries worldwide. Too many people are without mental health care, and RAD is changing that. If you struggle with mental health, go to www.urrad.org for more info on how you can get help.